Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's great to have everybody joining us over here, and we are sponsored in our tour through Shavuos by A.B. Spry for the Refuah Shalema of Toiba Reza Bas Hinda, and for wonderful zivugim for his daughter and grandchildren. We're sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin, who is also a co-sponsor of tonight's Chumash here for his wonderful children, Eli, Orit, and Ora, for my refuah, my Shmeir ben Esther Fadl, and refuah Shalema for Shimon ben Sarah Miriam. They should have a refuah Shalema b'Sei Shech Eli Yisrael. We're also sponsors anonymously for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Bela Shendel Rivka. Before we learn tonight's daf, it begs a preface. There's two types of ways to bind ourselves halachically to do something. Either a neder or a shvuah. A neder and shvuah are very different. A neder is an Isser Chefza. That means that the Torah allows you to put an Isser on an item. I could say, Kiker Zeh Kekarbon. This loaf should be like a carbon, and then the loaf is forbidden to me. I could say, Svina Zeh Kekarbon. This boat is like a carbon. Then the boat is forbidden to me. So you see, the Isser is put on the boat, the Isser is put on the loaf. That's an eder. A shvuah is different. A shvuah is an Isser gavra. The Isser is on the person. Gedalia says, I swear not to eat baksa. He's not putting the Isser on the baksa, he's putting the Isser on himself. That's an Isser Gavra. That's why he says, Shaloi Eichel, that I won't eat. Now, there is a question whether you could do, a neder, its form, as we will see in the Gemara, since it says ki yidor neder, that's a double lashon, ki ish ki sidor neder, a double lashon. It means at sheyidor bedavar another. You take something and you compare it to something that had a man-made isser upon it. So a carbon is man-made isser. So when you compare it to something that has a man-made isser, so then it becomes forbidden. That's called hatfasa. Hatfasa means that you attach it to something else. The question is there hatfasa by shvuah? Now, simply put, as Mark would readily tell you, you can't have hatfasa by shvuah. Because if, let's say, Mark says, shvuah shaloi oichel beef franks, his wife tells him that it's not so healthy, so he says, shvuah shaloi oichel beef franks. And then he says, and this shmalz kazeh should be like the beef franks. That would be hatfasa. But there's a strong argument that that shouldn't work. Because his shvuah wasn't an isser on the franks, it was an isser on himself. So that there's an argument to say that hatfasa shouldn't work by a shvuah. Now that's number one. Number two, there is a question: what if Mel says, "Aser shaloi oichel kiker zeh, Iser shaloi oichel kiker zeh"? Is Iser a language of a shvuah? Now there would be an argument to say it is, because it says in the Torah, Oy Osra Isur al Nafsha. We will see that the word mifta shelo yochel kikazeh is a lashon shvua, because it says oy mifta svaseha. So we're going to see the Gemara is a little bit technical, but we'll get through it with flying colors, Be'ezus Hashem. It says the Gemara, as we're way ahead, everybody likes to hear that, 7 lines from the top of Daf Chaf Amud Aleph, Tan Rabbana, Mifta Shvua. If, who's not careful with what they say? It's hard to, Barry. If Barry says mifta shelo yochel kikazeh, mifta is a shvua. Iser shvua. If he says iser shelo yochel kikazeh, it's a shvua. Iser. If he makes an iser with iser, imata aimer iser shvua. If you say here, the Gemara will say Iser means if he makes hatfasa. He says that it should be Aser like something else that has a shvua. Im ata imer Iser shvua, if you say that hatfasa by shvua would be chayiv malchus and chayiv a carbon b'shoigeg. Chayiv. Yimla potter. So the Gemara says, at first glance, it seems to be an internal contradiction. Imata imer iser shvua, v'amarta iser shvua. You just said that just like mifta is a shvua, then iser is also a shvua. So Abai and Rava are going to argue on how to learn this. Amar Abai Yehochi Kamer, mifta shvua. Barry says mifta shelo yochel kikazeh. That's a shvua. Iser is mitvus b'shvua. Iser means that you're attaching it to something else that has a shvua. Iser means to bind. So therefore, it's a type of atfas. So if he says Iser like kikar, Rashi says it's as if he said shvua that I won't eat a loaf, and then he says let this second loaf be like the first loaf. So hatfasa by shvua. So then it says, are you chayiv for hatfasa by shvua? So Iser is mitvas by shvua. So Iser is Iser going to be an Iser? Im ata aimer mitvus b'shvua k'maitzi shvua mepiv dami. If you say there is hatfasa by shvua, so then you would be chayiv. You'd be chayiv a carbon if you did it b'shogeg, and malchus if you did it b'mezid. V'im lav, but if there's no hatfasa b'shvua, then you'll be potter. Says the Gemara, okay, according to Abaye, who says mifta is a shvua? Umamagda mifta b'shvua dichsev oy nefesh ki shava levatei b'svasayim, a person who swears to utter with his lips. So then Isser should also be a regular shvua. Isser nami dichsev kol neder v'kol shvuas Isser. Ela mamag the Isser mitvus b'shvua. How do we know that Isser is only mitvus b'shvua? It's like saying, I'm not going to, I swear not to eat this loaf, and I say this second loaf should be like the first loaf. He binds himself, an Isser, with something else that has a shvua. He attaches an Isser to something else that has a shvua. So, but then mifta nami yoksiv l'cholashi yavate odem shvua. So say that mifta is also atfasa. It says the word mifta, and it doesn't say the word shvua with it, because it says ish under mifta asher asra al nafsha, and it doesn't say the word shvua. V'ilu shvua like kama. Then b'may asra atzma. Then what did he answer himself with? B'mifta. So here Abaye is of the opinion that Iser itself is not a lashon of a shvua. Rather, Iser is only hatfasa, and the Bryce is telling us we're not sure if hatfasa by shvua really is a chayiv carbon or malchus or not. Rava said that's not pshat. Rava said that's not pshat. Rav Amar, Ilam Eimalach, Mitvis B'Shvua, Lav K'maitzi Shvua Mepiv Dami. There's no hatfasa by Shvua. Because like I said, when Mark said, Shvua Shaloi Eichel Kikir Zeh, I swear not to eat this loaf, he's not putting the Isser on the loaf. He's putting the Isser on himself. Then when he says a second loaf should be like the first loaf doesn't have an Isser on it. So therefore, there's no atfasa by shvua. Rav Amar, let's see it inside. Rav Amar loylam emelach bitvis b'shvua lav k'maitziv shvua mepiv dami. That's not a shvua. V'achi kama mifta shvua. Iser nami shvua. But not always. The word Iser depends if on the language that you use. You see, there's, as I told you, there's a lashon neder and there's a lashon shvua. If Mark says shaloi oichel, that I won't eat, that's a lashon shvua. If he says a lie, like kikir zeh a lie, that's a lashon neder. And therefore, Rava says it depends where Mark used the word aser. If he says aser kikir zeh a lie, then aser is a neder. If he says aser shaloi eichel kikir zeh, then it's a shvua. Right? Mark, you writing all this down? Now, what a little alcohol does for him. Now, if this is what alcohol does for you, Mark, you should drink it every night. Asrei de Isser, says Rava, the Torah put the word Asr in between Neder and Shvua. Hitilu akasav bein Neder l'Shvua. Hoitzil b'lashon Neder, if he used the language of Neder, Asr kikir zeh alai, Neder. B'lashon Shvua, if he uses a lashon Shvua, Asr shaloi eichel kikir zeh Shvua. Now, heichon hitilu, where did it put Isser between Neder and Shvua? In base Isha Nadara, if in her husband's house she made a vow. Oh, Asr Isser al Nafsha b'Shvua. So it puts Isser in between Neder and Shvua. Now, this question of whether there's Hatfasa b'Shvua or not, this is an argument between Abaye and Rava. V'azdul l'tamayr, dit ma matfis b'Shvua. If one makes that fuss of Shvua, Mark says Shvua shloichel kikir zeh, and then he says kikir zeh kazeh, a second loaf should be like the first loaf. Abaye amar k'maitzi Shvua mepiv dami. Abaye says it's a valid Shvua. V'Rav amar lav k'maitzi b'Shvua mepiv dami. So now the Gemara asks from a famous teaching, Meisvei, Eze Isser ha'amar b'Torah. What's the issue that it says in the Torah? He says, I'm not going to eat meat and I'm not going to drink wine. Like the day that his father died, the yard side of his father. The day that so-and-so died. The fast of Gedaliah. Kiyom shira Yerushalayim like the day that he saw Yerushalayim in ruin. Also, V'amar Shmuel, and Shmuel says, when is it aser? V'hu shenadaru ba me'ais hayoyim. That's only if, because remember, it has to be something that is a davar hanodar. So it's only if on every yahrzeit he made a neder not to eat, and therefore when he says that it should be like that day, that's a hatvasa in the neder. So bishleima labaya, it's good according to Abaya, mid matfis beneder neder, matfis b'shvua shvua. The Gemara now thinks that if hatvasa works by a neder, so it should equally work by a shvua. El Rava, but according to Rava, El Rava kasha. Now, Rava tells us you're comparing apples and oranges. The operation of a neder is through hatvasa, because it says in the pasuk, ki sidon ish ki yidor neder laHashem. You have to make a neder b'davar hanodar. You have to compare it to something. You have to say kikazek carbon, or you make a neder on one loaf and then you say kikazek kazeh. So by neder, the nature of a neder of a av by nedarim is through hatvasa. Amalach Rava Taritz ve'emahachi ezo iser neder ha'ama b'Torah. What's the iser neder that it says in the Torah? Ha'imar hari alai. Now, even though the Ran in the beginning of Masechtas Nedarim says that this is actually a neder b'lashon shvua, because he says hari alai, that's a lashon neder, and then he says shaloi oichel, which is a lashon shvua. So the Ran says that since he used the lashon of hari alai, so that's a neder, and the fact that he said shaloi oichel, we interpret it to mean that you can't eat it because it has a neder on it. That's called a neder b'lashon shvua. But anyway, hari alai shaloi oichel basav shel eshte yayin, ki yom shemeis by aviv, like the day his father died, or ki yom shenereg by Pliny, or the day that so and so was killed. V'amar Shmuel v'hu shenadar rabba me'ais hayom, that every yahrzeit he made a neder, because that way it's conclusive that when he says like the day, it means like the day that he already had a neder. So, and my time, why is that the way that you make a neder? Because Amakra ish ki yidor neder laHashem, a man that makes a vow to Hashem, at sheyidor b'davar hanodar, until you make a vow with something else that was forbidden with a neder. Says the Gemara, well, ki yom shemeis by aviv pshita. That's obvious. That's obvious that that's a davar hanodar. If he made a vow on his father's yahrzeit, so that's, what's the chiddush? The chiddush is, even if it's on Tzum Gedalia. Now, Tzum Gedalia, you're already aser to eat because it's a Tanis Sibber. So I might think that you're neder not to eat, saying food is forbidden to me on Tzum Gedalia, is not chal, because it's already aser. Says the Gemara, Ki yom shenereg by Gedalia ben achikim itzruchlei. So kadaita chamina keva dechiloi noder nami aser. So ki neder nami loy havya lei iser. I might think that the iser neder is not chal, and then if the iser is not chal, then v'hai lav mitzvahs beneder. When he says I should be like that day, that's not hatvas of a neder. Kamash malon. And by the way, the reason why the neder is chal on Tzum Gedalia is because Tzum Gedalia is an Issa Gavra, and the neder that you put on it is an Issa Chavtza. And that's why the neder is chal. And then it becomes a hatfasa b'davar hanodar.
You could make a neder about eating on Tzum Gedalia?
Correct.
What's the mechanics of it?
Mechanics says is you take out your wife's supper, and you said, supper zeh alai kikar. It becomes also ben davar hanodar. It becomes also as a neder, because it is a chefetz on it.
Well, what about Tzum Gedalia? You say you're not going to eat on Tzum Gedalia?
You didn't say the words, I'm not going to eat. That's not a neder.
right?
You say all the food in the house is also kikarbon. Or you can even say all the food in the world is also today kikarbon. That neder is chal, because some gedalia is in it's a gavra. And then you can be matfis in it. Now,
well, by doing that, he puts some an it's derisa on himself, because some gedalia is only in a certain
that is correct. That is correct. That is correct. V'af Rab Yochanan saval al de Rava. Rab Yochanan also holds of that of Rava. The Chiasa Rav and Amar Rab Yochanan, mifta loy oichelach. If he says mifta, I won't eat from you, or iser loy oichelach. Remember, the Rava holds that iser is a swing thing. So if you use a lashon of shvua loy oichelach, shvua, it's a shvua. Now, Chiasa Rab Dimi, when Rab Dimi arrived, Amar Rab Yochanan, oichel v'loy oichel. If Barry says, we're back to Barry, I know he was getting bored, I give him a few minutes and he's up to mischief. If Barry says, oichel, I will eat, v'loy oichel, he says, I will eat today, and he doesn't eat, that's sheker. V'asarasei mehacha, and the prohibition is loisi shavu b'shmi l'shaker. You shouldn't swear in my name falsely. Achalti, if he says I ate yesterday, v'lo achalti, and or he says I didn't eat yesterday, and he did, then it was a lie from the moment it came out of his mouth. That's a shvur shav. That's a vain oath, like swearing that the sun is the moon, or a man is a woman. And v'asarasei mehacha, and the warning is, like he says, Shem Hashem alekecha l'shav. Kainamais. Now, kainamais is the. Whoa, what was that? What's going on here? Who's playing around over here? Wow. Why did we blank out? Can everybody hear me? Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Barry, what are you doing?
I hear you.
No, but that,
I see the Rav and I hear the
my
Rav.
computer blitzed 2 times.
Because he's using me too much.
Okay, too little with Barry. Okay, you're right. Okay, so Barry, when when you're on target, you're on target. You know what it is? It's that did I welcome everybody in? No. So that's what it is. It's nicht menschlich. So we welcome in Shimon Klein and Dr. Black and Mrs. Black and Nachman Chapler and Irving Fishbaum and Mo Kushner, Ruven Pollack, Shelley Zeitlin, Dr. Guy, Mel Zachter, Yitzi Fuchs, a smiling Mark Frankel, Reb Kaniel, Yaakov Warman, Dov Solkowitz, Barry Cement, Rabbi Kranz, Naftali Jablin, Eddie Chazan, who's keeping in the background tonight. He's afraid. Moshe Lehman, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Muller, Abe Arbach, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, David Elfgott, and there he is, Yeshua Shmuel. And here in the shul, we're very wealthy tonight. Wow, I'm telling you. Wow. We have Barish Gesseman, Gedalia Engel, Avram Rezepkowitz, Chaim Kramer, Michal Avram, Ruvain Shanit, and Gedalia, I have to give credit where credit is due. Your record this week was mamish, like really great. Really great. It makes me a happy man. That's what it is. It says...
I got a ride over.
Listen, I could always... Restart required? Are you kidding me?
The rough freeze. There was a freezing for about 15 seconds.
I know.
You can postpone that. You can postpone that until later.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I better look into that for a second over here.
I know Saba called me, he said he's having problems getting on.
So,
They ringed up with something else, and they gave up.
Okay. Thank you, Joey.
Meanwhile, with all these Gemaras about Kainamais and Shavuos, I feel like it's called Nidre. We shouldn't be eating now. Hi, Irving.
okay, everybody hears me though, right?
Yes?
Yeah, it says the internet connection is a little unstable. I have a feeling there's storms around. Oh, you see, now we see Eddie. That's the problem. Eddie has. You don't understand Eddie's connections. He's connected to the satellites, all kinds of things. But anyway, Eddie, I didn't tell them about you. But only a little bit. The other them can't handle everything. Anyway, what's going on over here? Nothing. Okay. So kainamais, where Barry makes kainam is a neder, because kainam, the Gemara didn't want you to say the lashon of karban, because then you might say karban la Hashem, and you might change your mind. You might say la Hashem karban. You might change your mind and just say la Hashem, and then you would be saying Hashem's name in vain. So instead, they said kainam instead of karban. Really, we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan that kainam is slang for karban because nedar nemar and b'kol lashon. But if you say kikazel like a kainam, it's like you say kikazel like a karban. So kainamais means nedarim. By a neder, if Barry said kikazel like a karban and he eats the bread, he's over lo yachel devarai. Kainamais over lo yachel devarai. Now, so we said there's a difference because if Barry says, I swear that I'll eat today, and he doesn't eat, he lied. Because when he said, I swore I eat today, it wasn't usher yet. It's only if he didn't eat the whole day, then he lied. So that's Shavuos Sheker. If Barry says, I swore I ate yesterday, and he didn't eat yesterday, as soon as he said it, he lied, and that's a Shavuos Shav. And the Gemara says that there's two different psukim. So Meisvei, Shav v'Sheker echad hei. Shav and Sheker are the same thing. My lav mid the Shav l'she'avar. A vain oath is in the past. In other words, immediately when he says it, that he swears a man is a woman. Af Sheker nami l'she'avar. So also when he swears that he ate and he didn't eat, that's also considered sheker. Alma sheker achalti achaltiu. Achalti achalti is also sheker. Says no. Midei who says hakadisa v'hakadisa. Swearing that I ate when he didn't eat, that's vain oath. Swearing that I will eat and he doesn't eat, that's sheker. Or my davar echad, hey? What does it mean, davar echad? The Gemara wants to say to b'dibur echad nemru. Just like it says Zachar v'shama b'dibur echad nemru, and in one of the luchos it says Zachar es yom haShabbos l'kachay, in another it says Shama es yom haShabbos l'kachay, and we say that Hashem said it with one breath. Masha'ein yochel hapeh l'daber, or masha'ein ha'izin yochel l'shmaya, something that a human person cannot do, and something that the human ear cannot hear. So here also, when it says that you shouldn't testify falsely, it says you shouldn't testify l'shav, and you shouldn't testify l'sheker. It was said in one dibur. So the Gemara says, not so fast. Bishloi mahasim b'dibur echad nemru. It says Zachav v'shama with one dibur. Kid Rav Ada bar Abba. That's like Rav Ada bar Abba. They tell me that women are chayiv in Kiddush. Now you would say, women are not chayiv in Kiddush. because it says mitzvah azay man grama. It's limited by time. But the din is that women are chayiv in kiddush. Why? Because it says zacha v'shamar b'diber echad. So just like they're chayiv not to do malacha, it's a lav. So they're chayiv also with zacha with the asay. So the Gemara says, so over there it makes sense that it says it in one breath. Damar of Adabar Av Noshim Chayavis B'Kiddush Hayom Dvar Torah. Damar Kra Zacha V'Shamar. Kol Sheyeshnu B'Shmira. Whoever is commanded to guard the Shabbos and not do Malacha, Yeshnu B'Schira is chayiv in Kiddush. V'Hani Neshei Hoyov Isnu B'Shmira, because they're chayiv in all of the lavin of the Torah. Isnu Nami B'Schira. They're also chayiv in Kiddush. Elahacha, but over here, for what reason would it say shav and sheker in one breath? Rather, when it says that sheker and shav is one, it means kishem shaloike al shav, just like you get malchus for a vain oath, kach loike nami al sheker. So also you get malchus for a false oath. Says the Gemara, klape laya, towards the tail. It's opposite. We would for sure think that you get sheker, malchus for a lie, because for a lie, Barry has to do something, right? He swears that I won't eat, and he eats, he does something. And normally you're chayiv by a lav, sheyesh b'maisa. So, if anything, the bigger chiddush is a vain oath. So the Gemara says, you're right. Elaima kashem shaloika al sheker, just like you get malchus for a lie, kach loika nami al shav. So you also get malchus for a vain vote. Says the Gemara, well, what's the chiddush? Pshita. Pshita, it's obvious. High lav, a high lav. Each one is a lav. So why is it a chiddush? Mao the same kida amalei Rapapa la Abaya. I might think like Rapapa said to Abaya. By a Shavuos, a vain oath, it says lo yinakeh, so you won't be cleansed. I might think lo yinakeh klal, even with Malchus, Kamash Malan, that he will. Kiddushani lay like Abaya will explain tomorrow. Okay, we'll stop over here now. A very interesting daf. Very unusual. This is new subject matter for many people, but it's very interesting. And now we're going to have the Chumash here.